afternoon everyone, and welcome to today's webinar on strengthening your business. I'm proud to deliver this webinar. My name's Yvette Adams. I'm from the Creative Collective, and we're delivering this on behalf of the Department of Employment, Economic Development and Innovation, otherwise known as DD. This is actually the first in a new series of webinars which will take us right through to Christmas, and I'll give you a list of future topics coming up at the end of today's presentation. This is what we've got in store for you today. I'll just give you a really quick intro on a little bit of my background, an orientation around the system, and then the most of the webinar is actually revisiting points from the workbook. So when you registered, you would have been encouraged to download and read a workbook. I'll check just in a moment who's had time to do that. Then we'll review the items, a summary page, and finally you will have the opportunity to ask questions at the end. However, I do also want to tell you that this is not school. I do want you to interact. So throughout the webinar, I'll be asking you to put up your hand or text chat me when I ask questions, because I'd really like to know who you are and what's important to you, because this is a group training format and that's how we'll all get the most out of it. So there's a picture of me when I had a fringe. I don't anymore. I might have to put a new picture up. But as you can see on the screen, I've won quite a few business awards. The most prestigious of which would have been last year, which is the Telstra Businesswoman's Award, the Commonwealth Bank Business Owner category. I've also started many businesses, all very different, businesses that are just online. I had a retail clothing one when I was 26, which I then sold for 5 figures. But these days my real focus is the Creative Collective, and we're a creative agency based on the Sunshine Coast of Queensland. We basically work with startups right through to large corporates on web design, creative strategies, marketing, social media, all sorts of stuff. But apart from that, like many of you too, I'm also a parent. I'm a mother of 2 children, aged now 4 and 7, although the 7-year-old's got a birthday next month, which he's very excited about. But I really do get a big kick out of training and assisting others. Now, I want to check that you're all on board with this technology. So I want you to click on the red arrow if you can't see the full menu, which should allow you to then click and place your hand up. I want to see how many of you out there are parents as a question, just to see if you can get this technology and work out how to raise your hands. You could all raise your hands now, those of you who are a parent in our audience today. Okay, Ted is, Vicky is, Patty is, Jan is, Tash is. I wonder how many of you are. I'm just trying to work out where that hand thing is. Keep persevering. Alyssa is. Now here's another tip. If you're struggling with anything technical, sound, how to respond, etc., can't see the screen, you are welcome to text chat our facilitator, Jag Quimby, and just direct a text chat to him and he'll be more than happy to assist if needed. So that's great. Now I'd like you to click on the hand and put it down so that we can know that we can move on. Otherwise, I'll think you've got a question and I should stop and check out what's going on. But I do want to ask you another question before we proceed. I'd like to know, hands up if this is your first time on a webinar by DD. Okay, wow, quite a few new ones. Well, welcome everyone. And if this isn't your first time, I wonder if you're reviewing a topic you've already seen, or maybe this is a topic you haven't participated in before. But to all of you, a huge welcome. Okay, so today we're talking about strengthening your business, and this is a really good time of the year to be looking at this. We're heading towards Christmas. Between now and then, you can do some strategic planning as to how you can improve your business situation and maybe either start implementing the stuff now or down the track. Now, it's really important in business, really important actually, to have what we call an elevator pitch. Now, that's quite an American saying, but if you haven't heard the terminology before, basically, it's the ability to, in a very succinct way, should you get asked who you are and what you do, be able to articulate exactly what you do in business. How many of you have been at a networking event or some other social occasion where you've met someone and they've explained what they do, but you still don't really know what they're on about when they've stopped talking? Put your hand up if that's happened to you. Sure, it's happened to Patty, Ted. Sure, it happens a lot, doesn't it? Or you might have a bit of a vague idea, but not specifically. So you must be able to convey not only what it is you do, but how you help people. Now recently I was at an event which featured Donald Trump, Anthony Robbins, Robert Kiyosaki, and the way they articulated I thought was very good. And it is, how do you solve people's problems? If you can articulate that into your elevator pitch, I think you're well on your way to having a good one. Out of curiosity, hands up if you do already have an elevator pitch. You're confident, you've got it under wraps, you use it regularly. Only Vicky? Only Nicole? Wow, okay, not too many hands up, but appreciate your honesty. Michael has one, good one. Right, for those of you who didn't put your hand up, and even those of you who did, I want you to really think about if it's as good as it can be, and put that down as your first action point for today, that you need to work on, to develop and practice your elevator pitch, because you never know when you're going to need to use it. I myself today am off to Melbourne to an event that features Richard Branson. Now, I don't know about you guys, but for me, he's a huge business hero. And I don't know if I'm going to get the chance to meet him, but if I do, I better have a good elevator pitch, right? Because you just never know what could come for your business out of that. Okay, the other thing about strengthening your business, that's a really basic start point, but let's expand on that. It's understanding what does your customer want. And like I said before, a lot of that is driven by what problems are they having. So you need to really get to know your customer. You can't in business be self-centered and thinking that you have the ultimate product or service and be pushing it out and just thinking that customers will want it. You've got to really get inside their head, or, walk a mile in their shoes, as the saying goes, and think about what it is that they're looking for. So how many of you, hands up, or you can text me a yes or a no to test out the chat technology as well, do you think you really know what your customer needs are and what you need to do to address those needs? Do you think you're all over that already or not? Put your hand up if you think you've got that sorted. I can see some people answering. Let's share some of those. Jan's saying there's some audio issues. Jag, if you could check that out for me. Patty thinks he's got it sorted, and Nicole. Okay, well, let's look at it some more. You've got your customer here in the centre. They literally are the centre of everything. If you want to strengthen your business and have more dollars coming in, you've got to have a strategy to connect with those customers. You've got to have a policy to manage anything related to the transaction and the way you interact with them. You've got to have good people supporting that customer. Maybe that's your team, could be your suppliers, and so on. And you can see this big one wrapping all of that is a system. I'll tell you what, I would not have the business I have today if it were not the systems. We're going to explore that a little further on, but I do want you to refer to the workbook, because there's lots of ways that you can look at in that workbook which will help you to understand what your customers want. Complete some of those exercises. For those of you who are a little bit vague on this or haven't really answered it, maybe that's another action point you can go and do. Now, this slide looks pretty scary, and I realize it's quite a small font or like typeface, but this should also help you understand what's going on, because also trends can affect how strong your business is. Now, I mean, I don't know about you, but I find that the business environment moves very, very fast right now. The one I operate in, like internet, social media, marketing, geez, that moves at such a pace. But I know there's lots of other industry, comparing notes with other business owners, that would say exactly the same thing. Now, the other thing is that there's just also global and external factors, and they can have a significant impact. They can be a positive impact or a negative impact on your business. So I want you to have a look at this, and I want you to find a trend on there that's listed that is having a significant impact on your business, and give me a little bit of an indication of why. So let's see an example. You look at the yellow tentacle, we'll call it. You can see obesity there. Now, if you were a personal trainer, then the obesity epidemic that is affecting not only Australia but the world would be a impact that would be having, I imagine, a positive effect, because you can be out there making a difference to reducing the obesity if you're able to solve that problem, come up with strategies. Nicole's just asked about the workbook. I'll recover how to access that post the webinar towards the end if you like. Could some of you text in one of these trends that's affecting your business and why? Love to know. Some of you have gone a bit quiet on me. Maybe you're texting me quite a story right now. I'm going to progress because we've got quite a lot to get through in this time. And as they pop up, I may stop it and have a look some further. Okay, this is also important to understand, and that is which type of company are you? Now, this exercise is also on the workbook. So, Nicole, the workbook, when you registered, there was a little link encouraging you to go to a website and download the workbook prior to the webinar. Now, I know if you're anything like me, you're probably busy, may have skimmed over that, but do return to that email communication. Do get that workbook. It's a really chunky document. It's got some great exercises in it, well worth downloading. If you want it the most out of today's session, I really encourage you to take a look at that. So I encourage you to go through this example in the workbook because it breaks down different trends into society, technology, economy, environment, and so on. And there's always sub-trends of these as well. So, you know, here's an example. In society, a sub-trend of that is trust. Are people more trusting or less trusting than they have been historically? What's been an impact? Well, we're getting more gated communities. People are more concerned about security. You've got online identity fraud and all sorts of things. So what's the opportunity? Say this is your business. You could sell more group alarm systems. Say you've got a modem that monitors identity fraud or issues. Maybe there's an opportunity there for you. So you're building on that society trend and how you sell your wares. I hope that makes sense to everybody. Now, one of the biggest things I see in business that people are struggling with is that they need more money coming in the door. So this is a fantastic graph. If you can get your head around this and make a few minor changes in your business, you can have some very major results. So let me take you through it. When we're looking at strengthening a business, we're looking at these dark blue squares. So basically, if you want to strengthen your business, you can get more prospects, you can increase your conversion rate, you can increase your retention rate. Now you can do one of those and it will make a difference, or you can do all three and it would obviously be much more powerful. And then you would have more customers, a bigger customer base, as you can see my cursor down here. Now, if you can get those customers spending more frequently or increasing the size of the order or increasing the price of the order, again, you can impact maybe one of those. So maybe from this webinar, you may walk away thinking, you know what, I haven't put my prices up in quite a while and I really need to do that. Others of you may say, I need to increase the size or the amount I'm selling. I need to do upsell on the counter, just like the supermarkets are so good for, or some of the takeaway chains. Or I need to increase the frequency. Now, in doing that, you will increase the turnover. You'll get that desired effect. And it's pretty amazing that you can increase it by sometimes just 5% in one of these areas, even 1%, and the impact on your turnover can be quite dramatic. How many of you would like to increase your turnover? Hands up. Ted and Vicky do. There we go. I thought there'd be raised hands very quickly just then. Okay, I encourage you to maybe even print this out and put it on your wall, because if you're getting distracted by opportunities and just being busy in business, take it back to this. If you focus on these core things, you will strengthen your business and you will increase your turnover. I guarantee it. Okay, now another part of strengthening your business is retaining customers, because did you know that acquiring new customers can cost you 5 to 10 times more than satisfying and retaining current customers? Now, working in marketing like I do, I have a lot of people come to me and they will say, you know, I really want to market more and get more customers. One of the first questions I will throw back at them is, well, what are you doing with your existing customers? Questions like, when was the last time you contacted them? Sometimes it's quite a long time. When was the last time you surveyed them? When was the last time you offered them something complementary to what they've already purchased from you, whether that's a product or a service? And you know what? You can either sell other people's products or services to them that complement yours. There's an example, a 5% reduction in customer defection, that is customers leaving you, can actually increase your profits by 25 to 85%. So this is a no-brainer. You've got to start here. And on average, if you're wondering, you know, do I lose more than the average person, or am I actually holding on quite well? Well, the average company loses 10 to 30% of its customers each year. So, do you even know what your retainment rate of your customers is? If not, there's an action point. Crunch some numbers, work it out. And then set yourself a benchmark that you want to be keeping to. Maybe you say, I don't want to lose any customers, and you've got to have a 0% defection rate. Or maybe you say, I want to be on the lower end of that scale, I want to be at 10%. So are you aware of your customer retention rate? Hands up if you are aware of yours. Vicky is. Anybody else know what theirs is? Michael does. Good stuff. Well, there's another point for the action plan for a lot of you. Look at what it is and then come up with strategies to retain them. Again, in the workbook, there's quite a few strategies in there and some exercises which will help you get some good practical strategies going on that front. Now, it's really important to also consider and regularly review your product or service lines, because maybe you started off in business, maybe not even that long ago, maybe a year ago, maybe only 3 years ago, some of you maybe longer, but the business environment does change that quickly. I mean, I myself even think back and I think, well, I started in 2007 and my main thing was selling websites and doing graphic design and print. These days, probably about 30 to 40% of my business is actually training, so it's changed a lot. And I consistently look at what percentage of business are we getting from websites, what percentage are we getting from graphic design and so on. And I'm very aware of other market trends like we've just talked about that are impacting on that. So for example, for me, I know that the developing markets like India and Philippines have whole teams of web developers who are putting out some pretty amazing websites and other creative very cheaply. And although once things like language barriers and time zones used to be an issue, these days many people are going over that and outsourcing to those countries. So that's a trend that's working against me. That's something I need to recognise, and I need to decide as a savvy business owner what I'm going to do with it. So I challenge you to go through those thought processes yourself as well. Consider these bullet points on the screen. Are your product or service lines profitable? Because maybe they used to be, maybe they're not. Who knows who of you out there know that every single one of your products and services is profitable right now? Hands up if you do. Vicky does. Vicky's good. She's all over it. Patty does. Good. And I realise people like some of this stuff, maybe really easy stuff, you're already doing it, but maybe just by getting on today's webinar, hopefully it prompts you to just think outside of, or stop working in the business and work on it, and maybe take even just 1 or 2 points as valuable to you to go away and work on. So you need to think not only are they profitable now, is can you change anything to make them more profitable? Do you have to up the price, etc.? Do you have to decrease the expenses or cost of sales on them? Are they likely to grow? And do they form part of the strategic plan for your business? Right now, I'm going through a process of writing my strategic plan. My way of dealing with this in my business is getting my whole team together, usually in the month of December, and for a whole day we get out of the office and we discuss anything related to our future plan. But entering into that, I like to write a strategic plan and be very clear from the top as a good business leader what our mission is, what our vision is, what our objectives are, and then all the strategies should come off that. And it's a good way to stay focused, because yet again I remind you that you can get so busy in business and easily take your eye off the ball. Now, how many of you have heard of the 80-20 rule? This is quite a popular terminology, but it's an important one to know. Hands up if you've heard of the 80-20 rule. Quite a few of you. So just to clarify, it's that 20% of your customers, generally speaking, most businesses, 20% of your customers will provide 80% of your business. Did you know that? So to maximize profit, you need to grow your profitable lines and your profitable customers. So that 20%, they are your A for awesome, I call them, class customers. So what we always do as part of our strategic planning each year, and like I said, we choose to do it in December, is we classify our whole client list, we print it out, and we decide whether they're A for awesome, that's our way of calling it, B for basic, and C for casual. Let me give you some more clarification around that. We personally deem, but this is up to your decision as well, and how you deem what customers what. We deem A-class customers as those who spend the most with us, who are really good to deal with, who we get good results with, and who just really appreciate us, who maybe refer us to other people, who attend our events, who we just have a strong connection with. They're our A customers, and we treat them as such. We invite them to events, we provide them with PR opportunities. They get first priority on the best opportunities. Now, our B-class customers to us are still very valuable people. They are people who probably don't do as regular business, probably don't spend as much, but they certainly do provide a level of business. They're probably not within that 20%. They're probably, you know, something like 50% or something like that. Now, the C-class, you could call them casual, but if you want to be really harsh, I actually sometimes each year do a cull. So I'd call that C-class the cull. And they are the people who, you know, don't spend very much, who cause problems along the way, don't provide you with material when you need it, and just generally are difficult to work with. Maybe the ones that don't pay their bills on time. Who knows the sorts of customers I'm talking about here? I'm sure we've all had them. They're out there. No? No one got bad customers? Wow, you're doing well. You must be doing exceptional. Well, look, it's up to you what you do, but categorizing them can really, again, help you to think about working on the business, not in it, and therefore to make positive changes from there. Now, to strengthen your business, you also need to market. Now, I could easily do a whole topic just on this, but we're sort of covering all aspects of strengthening your business today. But marketing, you really need to test whatever it is you're doing. You know, create a certain landing page on a website where you send a certain ad group to, maybe your Google AdWords, or maybe a certain ad in the newspaper or TV or whatever it is you're doing, and monitor that, measure it, see how it's working, refine it, and then repeat the good stuff, eliminate the bad stuff. I can tell you categorically now, and I think most people know this, that online tends to be more measurable than offline and often cost less. But you should still always measure offline for accurate results. A few ways of measuring online is a tool called Google Analytics. Hands up who's heard of Google Analytics. Maybe you already use it. But great, lots of hands going up there. I truly believe every business owner should be using Google Analytics. You don't know how your website's going, therefore how your business is going. For most people, the website is tied in very closely to the performance of their business. So please make sure you've got that set up. If you need help with it, do consult with a professional. You know, a lot of you will track it through perhaps a CRM or a customer relationship management system. That is, every incoming call or email is logged. Therefore, you can run a report each month on how many calls, inquiries you had, or how many web forms were submitted. Who has the means to record that kind of data? They know what level of inquiry they're getting from their marketing any given month. Vicky does. For those of you who don't, this is also something you need to get into place. Sounds like a big job, but look, it can be as basic as this. You can have yourself or a receptionist near the phone if you get phone inquiries. Have a piece of paper. Every time you get an inquiry, do a line. Do 3, 4 more lines and then a line through, so you've got 5 if you get 5 inquiries in a day. And put that next to a date period, maybe a week, maybe a day, maybe a month. Depends on the level of inquiry you get. And then total all of those up at the end. So it's not rocket science, doesn't need to be super sophisticated, but it does need to be tracked, or else you really have no idea how your marketing's working. And I'll tell you my philosophy on marketing. This really sums it up. I'm not really into marketing awareness, which plenty of marketing companies out there will say, oh, but you're building the brand, you're building the profile. I personally only like doing marketing for myself and for clients that actually gets results. Now, to know if you've got the results, you have to track it. It's as simple as that. So I really encourage you to get that into place. Okay, pricing. Pricing is a big important part of strengthening your business. Now, all of us have been subject to, in the last year or two and longer, increasing mortgages, petrol prices, all sorts of types of fees because of the economy. Now, because of this, you may or may not have put your prices up. Hands up if you have put your prices up in the, say, last 12 months. Let's see, raise your hands on that one. Nicole has. Larissa, is your hand up from before, or you've put your hands up in the last 12 months? Put your prices up, not your hands. Alyssa has put her prices up. Good one. Well, that's interesting. Lots of you haven't, and that's totally at your discretion, but do consider, have prices that you're paying for items gone up? Can you withstand that, and do you need to increase your prices? Now, when it comes to pricing from a marketing perspective, There's lots of ways of considering how you price an item, and I'll admit when I got started in business, this was one of my most difficult things, was working out how much to charge for something. But here's some of the strategies to give you some ideas. There's cost plus, where you add on a percentage of the cost of the product to determine a selling price. So you might say it's this much plus 50%. In retail, I know a lot of people work to 100% markup, for instance. Then you've got market-based. The selling price is determined by research compiled from your target market. So if you know the market will only prepared to pay, let's say, $30 for a pair of basic pants from a department store, then maybe that's the market dictating that. Then you've got skimming. That's where you're setting the selling price high and you're going for just that high level of market. You don't really care about the lower types of the market. Now, that can be not a bad strategy for some, for luxury items, for instance, because you're basically going for the angle that you're going to have less customers but more money in the bank from those fewer customers. Easier to service, perhaps easier to provide a better customer service. You've then got the other strategy, penetration pricing. You're setting the selling price low to get customers' interest and to get a foothold in the market. Now, there's actually people who even go a step further and they pretty much take the first sale as a loss just to secure the customer, and then they gradually up it from there. But you've got to go in really well. I'll give you an example of this. I've got a day spa client, and a marketing company approached her, and basically they sell 3 of her services for something like $60 or $80. So that's definitely a loss leader, they also call this. She's not going to make any money from that, but the fact is she's getting new customers driven by them to her door. So what happens is this marketing company created the marketing material. They go out and sell it. It's got all her branding on it. They keep the money, so the $60 or $80 that they secure through that client, they keep. Those customers, though, then come to her business, and it's up to her to up the, for instance, half-hour massage to a full-hour massage. Increase, say, the eyelash tint to eyelash extensions as well. But she says it works really well for her because she is good at converting, good at the sales process, and she's taught her staff to do that as well. And she makes money also through gift vouchers and other upsells and cross-sells in that way. So there's a few ideas around ways you can improve or try different pricing models to strengthen your business. Now, distribution. This will apply to some of you and not others. If you're in a services-based industry, this isn't really going to apply, but if you're in a product-based industry, there's a distribution thing to consider. So recently I was at a breakfast and I saw a guy called John Rivet, and he's been responsible for creating a company that is taking sugar cane, all the sugar cane around this area particularly, and turning it into what he calls cow candy, and that is, you know, food for the cows to eat. And they've actually found a distribution channel in the form of South Korea. But you can imagine what a logistical thing that was to get this cow candy from the Sunshine Coast to Brisbane and then over to South Korea. But the point I want to make here that he made at breakfast, which I found very interesting, was that the distribution, from the transport, getting the cow candy from Sunshine Coast to Brisbane Port is more expensive than getting it from Brisbane Port to South Korea. Why? Because we get a lot of imports, would you believe, from over that way. A lot of ships are going back with empty containers. They were more than happy to take some of his products back that way at a very, very low price, very competitive. So isn't that interesting? So I guess what I'm suggesting here is sometimes there's opportunities disguised in distribution channels, so consider all things. So when you're looking at distribution lines, I do want you to think about, if you're in this product sort of area, how do you distribute your product? What's the reach of your product? Could it be going further? Would that strengthen your business? Because maybe you're only selling on the Sunshine Coast. Could you be selling across Queensland or Australia or internationally? And if internationally, what markets? What is the reach of your product? We've talked about what is the cost of distributing your product. So, you know, potentially you would easily think that the cow candy would cost a lot to get over to South Korea. So why is it a market you'd even be looking at? But he's looked at it, he's found a solution, the cost is actually low, as I've explained. What forms of product bundling can you do with the distribution as well? So sometimes people do free shipping for this much money spent or something like that. And also, how can you improve in order to combat distribution? You know, can you, for instance, if you're only selling locally, can you take it online and distribute it that way? Or there are means where you can have people store the items in warehouses, and they ship on your behalf. So some people have distribution warehouses in different points around the country or different points around the world, and then when they ship it's not as much money and they take care of all that headache for them. So I want you to consider, hands up if you're happy with your distribution channels, and text me if you think you could explore new ones, if I've got you thinking here. Okay, while you're doing that, I will continue. We've got still people arriving. Welcome, Stacey. Still got people coming in. Okay, strategy. Now, strengthening your business, you can't just be in operations all the time. Operations literally is working in the business. You've got to be working on it, and that is working on your strategy. So if you're not sure what that means or how to even get started, here's some really poignant questions to ask yourself. Number one, where are we now in the market? Are you recognized as the leader in your field, in your area, in your region? Are you recognized as having the best quality or the best customer service? Or are you award winning? What is it about your market position? Is it good? Is it bad? Could it be improved? Consider that. And again, there's exercises in the workbook that was distributed where you can go through and do this. So take the time. This is a prompt for you to do it, the webinar. Go away after this, actually write in the workbook, either now or at home later or the weekend, whenever you have the time. Next up, the goals and objectives. Where do you want to go? This might be where you are now, but where do you want to be? And, you know, there's so much value in doing this regularly. I've done this at the start of my business, but you have to do it, you know, the more often you can do it, the sooner you'll achieve your goals. I can tell you that much. I mean, lately I've been really lucky to go to some business conferences where I really get out of the office and really get thinking about these things, and it's given me a lot of clarity. In fact, I've set new goals and objectives that I hadn't even conceived before going in front of these conferences and just getting some new perspectives and information. Finally, on the strategy, how will we get there? You need to map out a plan. You know, there's that Alice in Wonderland saying where she bumps into the Cheshire Cat, which way are you going? The Cheshire Cat asks, and she says she doesn't know, and he says, well, it doesn't matter which way you go then. Literally, you need to have that destination. You need, which is the goals and objectives. You need to have the strategy action plan, which is your map, and then you can take the first step and then the second, and then slowly you'll be on a good path and journey. Okay, on to growth strategies. Now look, there's so many on there, so I'm not going to go into all of them, but basically, as I've talked about, some of you could be taking your existing products or services to new markets, and that's a way of strengthening your business. Or you could be developing new products for new or existing markets. So you need to evaluate all of these things if you're thinking of going somewhere else. And again, there's exercises in the book where you can take a look at this a little deeper, but lots and lots of options here. Okay, strategic customer management. Now, some customers, let's face it, they are more labour intensive, higher risk than others. There is risk involved in business as well. And it was only this week that I sat down with a business broker because I was curious about the discussion of how much is my business worth. And I think that's a really good thing for any business owner to do. I can tell you that business brokers will gladly come out to you, no fee, no obligation, just to have a chat. And for me, it really helped me. And he said, you know what, Yvette, you're doing a really good thing here because, dare I say it, the C word, as in the cancer, creeps up all the time, or other, you know, terminal illnesses and reasons why people need to get out of their business quick. And if they haven't assessed their risk, they haven't assessed where they're at right now, they haven't assessed what their strategy is, they're working in the business and not getting anywhere fast, then it makes it not as valuable of a business. And in some cases, the business cannot even be sold. So, you know, that's another good reason to really take a good look at this stuff. So let's go through these segmentations. Most people, and I want you to think about which customers you have and which brackets are these. Again, there's an exercise in the workbook you could go through and actually physically do this for your business. Segment 1, high value, so people giving you, you know, lots of revenue, and then low risk. So a good strategy to strengthen your business here is to develop and automate customers in order to maximize the service and retention. So some suggested strategies around that. We all have access to e-marketing and autoresponders. That is where you send out a series of messages after a certain action. So let's say they purchase a product online from you. Here's an example. You could send them an instant email saying thank you for ordering. It will be dispatched. It should be with you in 7 to 10 days. If you have any problems, call us. And then 10 days later, have another automated email saying by now your product should have arrived. We're just emailing you to see if you're satisfied with it. Should there be any problems or it hasn't arrived, please call us. Now that's good customer service and that can be automated. So think about these things in your business because they can make a huge difference in strengthening your business. All right, next up, high value, high risk. So this is about proactively managing customers, understanding their buying drivers and positioning on the supply chain. So this is where they take, as it says, a lot of management. So who of your customers do give you a lot of money, but should they leave, there would be a big problem in your business. And there's a lot of factors that go into it. Maybe it takes a lot of staff to service them. If you had staff leaving, that could be a problem. There's all sorts of risks to assess there. So do go through and do that exercise. Low value, low risk. So you could automate it completely in order to reduce the transaction costs. I mean, you know, think of banks. They automate so many functions that you realistically these days you don't have to step foot into a bank. You don't even have to call them. Most stuff you can do online. Could you do that with your business? There might be some significant investment in that, but what would that mean for your business longer term and its value, or in the time it buys you, or in the strengthening of your business, its positioning? Also, low value, high risk. You know, if you have got that, you may need to look to eliminate some of these clients or migrate them to different distribution channels or products and things like that. So hopefully there's a few ideas there for you. Now, I've talked about reviewing your business performance, and I'm curious, could you text me how often you review your business performance yourselves? Who's reviewing it? You know, are you doing it 6 monthly, annually, monthly? I do know that, you know, when I apply for things like business awards, this is something they really drill down to. They want to know. Here we go. So Ted's doing it monthly. Larissa's doing it annually. Vicky's doing it monthly. I suppose it depends what sort of you deem a business review. Patty's doing it 6 monthly, continuously, monthly in detail. Nicole, annual. Michael Smith. Isn't this interesting? We're all very different, and probably it's a big part to do with what types of businesses we run. I can tell you what our business does in case it's of interest, and we can compare notes here. We basically have an online spreadsheet on Google Docs. We find that works really well. I make each of my team members, no matter how senior or junior or what their role, responsible for reporting on a certain set of figures, and every 2 weeks we meet as a team and we discuss some of those figures, and every month those figures must be completed for the month so we have a true picture of how our business is performing. Now, I would suggest that some of you who are sort of mentioning that you're doing things 6 monthly or annually, I'd like you to consider whether there would be any benefit in reviewing your business more regularly. Because unfortunately, sometimes if we leave it for 6 months or a year and there has been big problems, sometimes it's too late. You know, earlier this year we ran one of these webinars and it was on financial management, and we had a woman called Melanie Jacobson from an accountancy firm, PJT Accountants, join us. And she said, you know, through this economic period there's problems with some businesses, but the biggest problem is that they don't come to us early enough. You know, they're not monitoring it enough. So you can presume that your accountant's looking at the stuff, but no one's going to think about your business and worry about it Sunday morning over a cup of tea and toast. So do take the time to do this. I schedule it in my diary. I also once a week look and sit down with my bookkeeper, and she produces me a weekly profit and loss balance sheet, some key reports like that. And also to help me with that, I use a system called Xero, X-E-R-O. It's an online account system. Produces really pretty, really easy to understand reports. So look, there's Mild and QuickBooks, and a lot of them do that too. But there's a few tips, I hope, anyway, in reviewing your business performance. You've also got to have an appropriate growth strategy, and this is also something, I'm just being very honest with you, and I hope me sharing where I'm at as a business and what I do is valuable to you. You know, lots of businesses in their early days, they grow very fast, exponentially. Lots, unfortunately, don't even make it past the first 3 years. Thereafter, a lot of businesses plateau, so it takes a really driven sort of business, really focused, really well strategically planned to grow again in next period. And Anthony Robbins had a really interesting analogy on this. He sort of suggested that whatever age your business is at is similar to like a child and what their traits are at that age. So, for instance, when you're 1 or under, as a year old, you're a newborn, you're a baby. You really don't have a lot, I guess, of, what's the word, skills and things like that necessarily. Then you become a toddler, so you can walk but you can't run, and you're learning to talk, and you're learning to find your voice and do things, learning to make friends and learning to share. And then, come forward, we're a preschooler, we're very curious, we're developing some good skills, and on it goes. You hit 5 and then you're off to school into the big yard and it's game on, I guess. So interesting analogy though, isn't it? Patty's made the comment I'd like to share of, and thank you for that, Patty, the frequency of review can be driven by purpose, whether you're seeking a snapshot of activity or identifying trends. And I think, yeah, you're absolutely right, Patty. It does depend on your business, as I pointed out, and definitely by your purpose and what your intention of reviewing the business is. But look, with all of this, people, if you are capable or confident or you aren't, there are people there to help. So don't be afraid of reaching out to a business mentor, a business coach, an accountant, a lawyer, or just even going through and doing some of the stuff yourself. Do some of the legwork through this workbook as well, and just to get a better feel for it. You do need to put some time into it. Okay, another way to strengthen your business is obviously better cash flow management. So in my experience, there's two reasons why many businesses fail. One is growth. They either grow too fast or not fast enough. But the second, and it's a big one for a lot of people, is cash flow. Now through this GFC, this has been particularly important. And the crazy thing is, for a lot of people, it's not because they've not got a good business. It's not because they haven't been able to find the business, win it, successfully deliver the service or product to satisfaction. It's that the clients then haven't paid. And I feel so sorry for businesses like that. But that is the fact of the matter. So this is the cycle of cash flow. You get the cash in, you buy things, you produce the goods, and then there's a receipt. So it starts there really, doesn't it? But you really need to consider what your debt collection strategies are. We use a system called FreshBooks. We find that very useful, and a lot of these names I'm throwing out there, they're listed on our website if they're useful to you on a page called Technology. But FreshBooks automates the follow-up of overdue invoices, which we love. So there you go. I talked about earlier automating systems. So rather than me relying on a bookkeeper to keep a track of who's overdue, because our payment terms are 7 days, the system will, if they're overdue even on the 8th day, automatically send out just a light and easy friendly email. If they're overdue 10 days, they get another one. We're on them straight away. And again at 2 weeks, and again at the month. And by the month, it's getting pretty firm and saying, you really need to pay this money or further action will be taken. So I really encourage you to look into those automated systems, because we've managed to keep our debt collection down to, it's gone from 8 days, which is unbelievable on a 7-day payment term, to I believe about 9 days in this economy. So a lot of businesses are experiencing it stretching out. Some businesses operate on a 30-day term, and they're seeing it go to 60 and even 90, and that can really hurt. That's where businesses go under. So please don't be one of those people. Okay, mentioning people, let's talk about people. They can strengthen your business. They can make or break it. So, it's a really good time in this economy as well to be hiring good staff, because there's some very well-skilled, qualified people out there who aren't finding work. So maybe you go on a recruitment strategy. It depends on what you're doing. You may also choose to focus on retaining them if you can. I know some businesses have laid people off, but some have also worked in job shares and part-time and flexible arrangements to make this work for them. The important thing about strengthening your business is, I think, communicating with the staff. It's a pretty important point. They need to know what's going on. There's different ways to do this. I'm not in the office a lot, so I revert to a lot of online systems. We use things like Google Docs to collaborate. We use project management systems. Again, these are listed on our technology page to work on projects, different teams. and I can dip in at any time and see what's going on and keep up to date with the communication. We love online technologies as well, like Gmail to communicate. We also use Google Calendar to coordinate diaries. So there's different means to communicate. There's webinars like this as well. There's Skype chats. They don't have to be together. But I do think you need to set a frequency of how often you communicate with your staff. I mean, we identified that even though we do a every 2-week staff meeting, we were finding, or I personally found as the manager, it wasn't enough. So I implemented what I called a weekly focus meeting, and that's first thing on a Monday. The idea of that is that if we've all had these great weekends where we've had our fun, we sometimes come in not necessarily focused on the job at hand for the week, and we always have quite ambitious plans. So at those meetings, I just ask my staff to tell me the 3 main things they're focused on this week that they wish to achieve. Of course, they'll achieve a whole lot more. What are the 3 big things, maybe projects that have been hanging around, maybe projects or tasks that are becoming time sensitive, and I encourage them to get those done. You've also got to think of ways to motivate your staff, so, to strengthen your business. I took mine recently down to see Anthony Robbins, Robert Kiyosaki, Donald Trump, 3 great business leaders, and I'm hoping that's going to pay off for me in dividends in terms of team building for hopefully the next few months. But I also am getting in external providers to provide time management courses and things like that. They're also going externally to other courses, and I really encourage the training aspect. So tell me, what do you do to motivate your staff or communicate your staff? Has anyone else got a great strategy that they'd like to share, maybe on text chat? Maybe you're typing. I'll continue in the meantime. Okay, we've sort of touched on systems. Oh, here we go. Nicole has said very flexible rostering is what she's got. And that's a good point, Nicole, because a lot of people are driven by lifestyle, aren't they? It's not so much about the job, but it's when they can do it and can they be a good parent and have a life as well, isn't it? So that's a really good suggestion. Thank you. On the system side, we're always trying to work smarter, not harder. That's my mantra, I think. I'm always saying it. And I'm a big fan, like I've sort of been touching on, of technology. So consider whether you could implement e-commerce, that is the ability to transact online, and or whether the current setups are effective. So, just recently, we've always just transacted using PayPal. And we've now realised after some reviews that we are probably transacting enough to warrant going to a full-blown gateway. So we've worked out that we'll probably save our business about $300 a month in fees. So we're pretty excited that we've analysed that and we're moving it over to that model. But, I just know lots of businesses out there, they don't sell anything online. And I think, why not? Even if you're in a service-based industry, put your calendar online and sell your appointments. That's just a wonderful thing. There's so many apps available. You can do it through Google Calendar. Again, there's other technologies listed on that thing on our website. Look at it, because it could make your life easier. A CRM, I think every business should have this. It could be as simple as an Excel spreadsheet where you record all your customers' names and you make sure your staff or yourself take a note every time you contact them. So you've got that continuity and they feel loved, rather than someone calling them and them saying, you just called me yesterday. Why are you calling me again? It looks pretty silly. There's also enterprise resource planning. So some companies at the big end use things like this for big projects as well. So yes, technology will cost you money, but you've got to think about what the return on your investment will be as well. So think about connectivity solutions, disaster recovery. Gosh, didn't we all learn that in Queensland earlier this year? And we'll actually do a big session, a whole webinar dedicated to this on cloud computing in the coming weeks. So I'll give you the date for that in a moment. I was talking earlier about business value. So we're all actually, it's a good thing to consider what you can do to make your business more valuable. And that was exactly what I said to the guy when I sat down with him this week, the business broker, is I want to work out whether some of the decisions I'm making are actually making my business more valuable or maybe taking it away from it. And I want to be guided by those decisions based on this. So just so you know, the value is based on the profit margins. The business broker I met this week was really talking about net profit and whether they can be improved upon, the stability of the business, its competitive advantage, How reliant the business is on the current owner is a point he really rammed home, and also the maturity of the industry. There's plenty of business owners or investors out there that want to buy a business that's passive, automated, easy to run, big returns, gets a mid-wage, and then they have better lending ability. So something to consider as well. Patty sent through a great contribution I'd like to share with you back on, I guess, the managing of staff. Personalising your engagement with staff, he says, that is, make the nature of engagement participative in nature, as you say, but retaining your position as a competent leader manager. Staff always want to be well led, feel their input is valued, and that their welfare is always a priority. Patty, I couldn't agree more. You're absolutely right. I call that collective management. I don't know if that's the exact term, but I'm all into that. I'm not into being a dictator or an authoritarian. I think more and more, particularly your Gen Ys and your Gen Zs in the workplace, they absolutely want to have a say. And you know what? Some of them are smarter than us. I'm not afraid to say that. Gosh, when it comes to technology and things, they're very good. But I think you've made a very poignant point there too, which is you need to retain your position and be in a position to make those executive decisions too at times and keep things focused and be the final say. But really good points you've added there. Okay, we've just got 2 more slides, 3, and then I'm going to open it up for questions, so bear with me. Forecasts. So we've looked at all these different things. We've also got to look ahead. So, you know, we've looked a lot at present. Now let's look at future. What is our company worth today? What can we afford to fund our growth? You know, do you need private investors? Are you running out of capital? Do you need a bank loan? What are your options? Can we offer different revenue streams? Should we purchase equipment that would mean that you might have new revenue streams? Maybe you're a printer and some whiz-bang new printer might be all the difference for your business growth. Should there be new ventures? Could you look to acquire other companies? There's so many different options for growing your business and strengthening your business. So there's just a few ideas on there. And again, refer to the workbook for more. Now we've also got business risks. This is really important. I saw a presentation by the CEO of Commonwealth Bank not so long ago, and I thought it was great because he said, no one can tell you exactly how to run your business in this, you know, today's age because it's so changing. The landscape is ever changing. So his points to us is work out to you what really matters. Number 2, work out the risks are, and what really matters, what the risks are. What was the third one? Having a mind blank. And then basically setting down the goals and doing it, putting your best foot forward. So with the risks, I think it is very important to analyse that, and that is how likely is each one to occur, how strongly is it likely to affect your business, and how can you mitigate it or stop it or reduce the risk against it now. Now, we have a session coming up on business continuity planning, and it's probably not our most sexy topic, but it's probably the most important. So I strongly encourage you to join us for that. I'll give you the dates for it soon. There's a bit of a focus on disaster management, but we cover risk management extensively in there. But certainly, as someone pointed out a little bit earlier, it was Patty, you've got to assess the risks, you've got to be aware of them to strengthen your business. Or else, you know, you could be running this wonderful thing that's got good growth, good everything, good people, and then something comes along and blows you out the water. Not good at all. Now there's financial risks, which are, I guess, worth looking at in an even more microscopic level. You know, you've got interest rate risks. If they went up, what would that mean to your business? Foreign exchange risk. Some businesses, particularly exporting ones, are very subject to fluctuations here that can really hurt them. Commodity price risks. I mean, they're changing. Can be just one big flood or so on, and a whole crop or thing is wiped out. Credit risk as well. There's been lots of cases of businesses actually doing okay, but the bank's deciding that they have extended too much credit and then wanting to recall the loans, and that's where some people have also had issues in the past few months. So look, gosh, I've given you a lot to think about there. A couple of you have got your hands up. I encourage you to put them down if you don't have a question. But if you do have a question right now, I'd love to open up the floor for questions. So Alyssa, do you want to ask me something? Shall I unmute you? Maybe you do. Let's have a go. Alyssa, are you there? Sometimes when we unmute people, the doesn't quite work. Alyssa, can you hear me? She's got her hand up, but perhaps no, she's put it down. She obviously didn't have a question. Jan's also got her hand up. I've got a feeling she doesn't have a question though, or do you, Jan? Does anyone else have a question, or feel free to text it through to me if you prefer to ask it in that manner. Anything you want, anything I've touched on, or also apart from questions, welcome your comments, just things that you'd like to share with the rest of the group. Maybe I've said something, you have a suggestion on how that can work well for your business and maybe some of the others. Okay, geez, you're a quiet bunch. Here we go. James, would it be possible to get a copy of the presentation? That's an easy one, James. All of these presentations are recorded. They're generally made available a couple of weeks after the webinar session. We get them up as soon as we can. They are available on our YouTube account, which is youtube.com/DA Creative Collective. And you'll actually see quite a few others up there. There's also a website called smallbusinesswebinars.com.au where we also house the webinars. So either or option, you can grab it from there when it's available. We also put up a transcription, so if you'd rather read it or you'd rather print it and give it to someone, please feel free to do that too. Okay guys, well you're a quiet bunch. James has said thanks. Does anyone else have a question for me? All right, well please don't leave. I have a couple of important announcements. We have more webinars coming up. We're very excited. There's some really great topics coming up, and I've touched on a few of them throughout today's presentation. All of these we've worked out, a lot of people seem to like lunchtimes. They work for us, and I hope they work for you. But if you can't for any reason make them, we do record them, as I've just said. So business continuity planning, looking at the risks more, looking at disaster management. I'm sorry to say, but you know there could well be storms in Queensland again. Also bushfires, we're predicted to have quite a heavy season there. 27th of October, that's next week, so basically same time next week. Jump on, would love to have you here, and tell your friends too. We've got another strengthening your business. If you want to recap on this topic, or maybe watching this thinking, gee, I know someone else who could do with this, maybe your staff even, would love them to come along and do that one on the 15th of November. The third topic, social media, that was really, really popular earlier this year, and I imagine it will be again. So I encourage you to book in early if you haven't already, if you'd like to join us for that. Cloud computing, so just to clarify what that is basically accessing systems, software online, live online, and there's so many different options. There are risks. We go through some of those and give you some ideas of some of the great technologies out there which you may like to look at, and reasons why you might like to look at them. We have search engine optimization. I get asked all the time, how do I get my website to the top of the search engine so that people find me easier? Well, in this lesson we'll tell you how. Got another business continuity planning at the end of November, and then finally, one of my favourite topics actually, local search marketing. Something that I feel a lot of business owners don't know a lot about, but it sure could help them if they've got a shop front or a physical presence that they want people to visit. So jump onto that. All of these are free, and you can register for all of them at business.qld.gov.au. Okay, a couple more shout outs. Now, DD have some wonderful services. They have some wonderful templates. I was just on their website the other day downloading a strategic planning template that I'm basing my strategic plan on. It's a great document. So go to business.qld.gov.au whenever you're stuck with something in business. It has a good search engine within it, and search for it. You can't find what you're looking for, or you just like to talk to someone, they even have a business hotline. This is the number 132523. Definitely ring that and share that with your friends. We want people to know about this. And finally, we want your feedback. So it's actually a requirement of our contract with DD to get feedback from as many of you as possible. So right now I'm going to send you a link, and I'd really like it if you could take just a few moments before you log off and complete that survey. There you go. It should have popped up in your text chat. It'll only take you a few moments, and it's about 5 questions. We really need your feedback on what worked and what didn't work for you. So I'm going to stay online just for a little bit longer. So I thank you once again for getting on. I realise it's quite a lot to fit into 1 hour, so I hope that even though we just touched on a lot of the topics very briefly, it was still good food for thought for you. And once again, I really encourage you to go and take a look at those workbooks. Thanks a lot, everyone, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.